We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Harrison County Board of Education for Tuesday, February 6th. We will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Phillips, will you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have several special recognition presentations tonight. I think the first one is Jason Burnside here.
Yeah, he had a certificate that he wanted to present to the board. I believe it's there.
We'll see if he can, if he wants
Just
to
for his
reschedule.
appreciation for the work that he always feels very supported by Harrison County Schools, and he wanted to recognize the board for that. He's in a new position. He actually is the camp director still for Jackson's Mill, but he also now wants to get back into the schools and do more STEM type activities through the extension office. So we met with him. I think Mrs. Mancini met with him so he can get back into schools, and he brought the certificate and wanted to present it to the Harrison County Board. So we'll let him know.
All right. Item B, Greg Phillips, We the People competition. Mr. Phillips.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm here with several of my classmate students, but they're not all here. Ms. Stutler asked me to, I guess, say a little bit about what we did.
We have certificates for them.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So I appreciate your time, and can I ask them to come down closer? The ones who are here, like just hiding behind your parents back there. It's a class of 18 students, and they are seniors, and it's AP Government and Politics, which does substitute in for senior civics. So what we've done is we have competed in a competition called We the People, the Citizen, and the Constitution. It is a national program, and the idea is that we have a mock congressional hearing. They are given 3 questions per team, so the class is divided up into 6 different units, and each one has 3 different questions, so there's 18 questions. And they have to become an expert in each question. They have to establish a dialogue with professionals in the field. Some of them are federal judges, some of them are lawyers, and they can hold their own. I'm proud of them. So they competed in the congressional district first and won that. And then we moved on to the states and we won that too. And I'm incredibly proud of them. Because we won first place in the state, we were invited to go to DC as well and compete on the national level. And I don't know how that's going to go, but it's an honor. And anything you guys want to say about it? Put you on the spot? No? Yeah, if you have any questions, I'll answer them, but I don't know what else to say.
Well, this group of students would not be here unless they had an instructor that was willing to spend the extra time and work with them, and you guys are getting that. Right, so we did well with the competition because of what you learned in
This one got a special recognition for really good performance. He held his own under some intense questions.
Well, we have certificates for your whole group, so we'll
Awesome.
recognize those, and I guess you can take back the ones.
Sure.
That are not here, so. All right, we're just glad you were. You want to handle it?
Sure.
How about that? We have Aaron Insani,
He didn't make it.
Isaiah Snyder. Isaiah, I know, he's coming.
Yeah, no, he told me he couldn't come.
Yeah. Isabella Majiski,
Probably she's not.
Gabriana Nixon.
There you go.
Gabriana, would you like to come up and get your certificate and we'll get a picture? Sophia Wagner, Lillian Lane, Marissa Davis, Aubrey McCarty.
I gave the wrong one to you.
Now that's usually what we do, because we don't know all their names. Thought I'd point that out.
Yeah.
Kyle Bennett, Brooke Lister, Maggie Brackman, Taylor Arnett, Emma Haskell, Josiah Corley.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
We couldn't do what we do either without the support of an awesome administrator. She's supported us for years doing this program. So thank you, Dr. Looker. He's right there.
Bring her up. Paris Barker, Haley Daniels, Brody Moyen, and Jennifer McKay. So we got all of them. I'll read one of them. This is from the Harrison County Board of Education, and it is for winning the West Virginia State We the People competition. And congratulations, you represent Harrison County very well. Thank you to Mr. Phillips and for Mrs. Looker for working with them so they could do all of this. And this is by the board, and Mr. Hamrick is our president, if you don't know. This is a good civics lesson.
Yeah.
Acting board. Frankie DeBono Jr. is our vice president. Mr. Hogue is a member of the county board. Someday you guys could run for the Board of Education if you really are interested. Mary Frances Smith is a member, and then we have Mr. Tucker. Tom Tucker is also a member, so congratulations. And then, who else do we have? We have parents here?
We do have parents.
Yes. Which ones are back there that are parents of these great kids, right? That's another part. You can't do any of this without the parents, right?
They drive.
Take you places. Drive you places and get you where you need to go. So congratulations to this group. And Mr. Phillips. I think we need a picture. All right, and then introduce your two children.
Yeah.
Harrison, yeah.
My name is Jackson, and my 1-year-old who's talking right now is Samuel. Yeah. And this is my wife, Mary Ann.
The future of the county.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you, guys. He's already forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moves us down to item C, Diane Cormack and Stephanie Runyon with writing assessments.
Good evening, I'm Diane Cormack, and I work with Susie Miller on coordinating our summative assessments. This year is really an exciting year for summative assessments. We've had a lot of changes, and I'm here to kind of share this with you. First one is that as of this year, all of our summative assessments are digital. And that's going to offer us a lot of opportunities to get things done quicker, more efficiently. It increases our test security. It allows for faster scoring. We got our PSAT scores back in under 2 weeks in the fall. So that's a real bonus for our kids who are getting ready to go to college. The SAT also, for the first time, is semi-adaptive. So after the students take one section of one content area, there's about a 15-second delay, and then they are given a second module based on their performance in the first one. So it's not quite as adaptive as our general summative assessment for our 3rd through 8th graders, but it's getting there. So that's really a big plus. Our writing assessment for the West Virginia Summative Assessment, this is our 10th year, believe it or not, of using this platform. And they're going to systematically replace all of the items with fresh. So all of the prompts in the writing assessment grades 3 through 8 have been replaced and refreshed. And they were able to add in narrative prompts for the first time since we've been using this platform. Because they're adding narrative prompts, that's required a year-long study of range finding and pilot tests and norming of all of those results so that they can develop an algorithm so that in the future, these tests can be hand scored. This year, however, because of the narrative prompt, they will all have to be hand scored, which is why we're doing the writing assessment separate from the regular general assessment. Next year, it'll go back into the regular test window just like before. The prompts are still the same as they were in terms of their distribution. Grades 3 through 5 will have opinion. Grades 6 through 8 will have argumentative. Grades 3 through 8 will have an informative explanatory option. And grades 3 through 8 will also have a narrative option. The elementary prompts will be more picture-based or story-based, and the upper grades will be more personal narratives. Stephanie Runyon was able to participate in our range finding. She's going to share a little bit about that. The other change in our writing assessment is that it requires, they developed it so that it will require a shorter time frame. Way back when I started this 14 years ago, we told kids to write and write and write and write and write and write, and the more you wrote, the better off you were. Now they want the children to just demonstrate their writing capabilities by what's called a quick write. And that means it can be completed in a shorter time frame. It's actually designed to be completed in under 2 hours. They are permitted to do a rough draft or create a graphic organizer, but they're not required. And in fact, the state is discouraging a rough draft that is handwritten because, first of all, they're trying to develop the technology skills that we all use every day in terms of writing something on our computers and going through and proofreading and editing digitally. It is a modern day skill. The other thing that we found is that we had children write these beautiful essays, handwrite page after page, and then they were simply too tired to type them into their blackboards. And again, as a classroom teacher, I watched children do this all the time. They'd have 3 pages of a rough draft, and they type the first paragraph and submit because they were worn out. So I think this is really a positive change. I'm excited about it. We're working hard with our teachers to kind of help them make the shift from the traditional 6-step writing process. We'll still use all those steps. We're just going to use it in a little bit different fashion. To that end, Stephanie's going to talk to you now about the range finding, but also what we're doing to support teachers and students in becoming more proficient writers.
Good evening, thanks. My name is Stephanie Runyon, and I'm the curriculum specialist for English Language Arts for elementary schools. And I will tell you, I am a person that considered myself a writer since I was in the 4th grade. I've worked with the National Writing Project at WVU. I'm a national board certified teacher, but I will still say that teaching writing is one of the hardest things elementary school teachers have to do. It is not an easy thing, but that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't do our absolute best to help our students prepare, not just for this, but when they can write, they can really show us all what they know and what they've learned. In our writing rubrics that go with the summative assessment, it's possible to get 10 points. And as they practice 3rd through 5th graders on the online modules, they can get a score out of 10. And the components of that are purpose, focus, and organization. They could get a score of 4 points in that. Evidence and elaboration, they can get a score of up to 4. And then conventions, that's spelling, capitalization, and all of those parts, and they can get 2 points. Like Diane said, the week of January 23rd, I was able to participate in the range finding. And I didn't really know exactly what that was going to entail. And it was very, very high level professional development for sure. Basically, I was in front of the computer with a group of teachers from Wyoming and New Hampshire. And it was a small group of 5 of us, I believe. And we basically looked at student writing after student writing after student writing. We figured out, they told us what the score was, and then we debated. Do we agree with that score? Did it make sense? Should that be the score that they receive? And then the work that we did is going to then help the people that hand score so they have a baseline of what to look for so they know what makes a score of a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. This year, in my role as a curriculum specialist, I have developed a class that I've offered for graduate credit for K-5 teachers. It's called the Science of Reading class, and basically we've looked at the foundational things that make up the science of reading: phonemic awareness, phonics, comprehension, and writing and vocabulary development. And at the end of this semester, 62 teachers will have taken that course. And a lot of that time is spent teaching the writing process, teaching a structure to help them be better teachers of writing, and hopefully showing them ways that they can incorporate more writing into everyday instruction. Because we cannot just rely on helping our kids learn how to write for this test, because that would not be great. We want them to be able to write about what they learn. We want them to be able to write stories about what happens in their lives. And we want them to really see writing as a way to express themselves as they go through school and as they go through life. In addition to the class that I'm offering for teachers that they can take for credit, I've also developed quite a few structured writing PowerPoints that I've been modeling in schools and showing teachers how they can then take the PowerPoint and take out the things that I put in and put the things that they're reading in their class, but then they still have that framework and structure to help them get more writing into the classroom. And we're also, in addition to showing teachers and students how to do more writing, is helping students get some self-regulation strategies and practices in place. Because there's nothing more frustrating than a child that struggles and they get a blank piece of paper and they don't know what to do. So we are teaching the power of the word yet. They say, I can't do this. We say, you can't do it yet. And we show them exemplars of good writing. We show them how to get there, and we take them through it step by step. Writing instruction is one of the things that I love to do, but like I said, it's not easy for me as a teacher, and I know it's not easy for the teachers that we have, but I've been working really hard to give them as much support as I can. Thanks.
Anybody have any questions?
How many teachers did you say you were training?
By the end of this semester, because it ends right before we go on spring break, 62 teachers will have gone through my class. Some in the fall. In the fall, I did it for K to 5. And one of the things of feedback, they said it would be nice if it could have been more streamlined. So this time I did a K2 section and a 3-5 section. So I was able to do 2 different sessions for this semester.
That's impressive.
Thank
And I thank you for taking that on because it's very important.
It's one of the most fun things that I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, ladies.
Moves us down to item B, and it's our county safety update. And it has Todd Poole and Jason Snyder listed, but I see Jim Kirby back there. Actually, it shouldn't say Jim Kirby, it should just say Kirby. Because that's how he's known, it's just Kirby.
We say Big Jim.
So, safety update.
It's one of the descriptions.
That's true.
So there's some data in front of you about our attendance rate and how that's broken down, where we're at in the county, how we're doing, how we're not doing. I don't want to take a whole lot of time talking about percentages and all of that. I just want everybody to get a quick overview of where we are at in the state and where I'm going with my philosophy and what I want to do with this, what my belief is. If you look at the first page, that's just attendance rate data for the state. The second page that's stapled together there is the attendance rate data for Harrison County. For the most part, we are pretty much on par with where the state is at. Now, they obviously want us to be better. They want us to be up around 95%. That's a struggle. I'll be honest, that's a struggle. Behind that, you'll notice that I've put together there 2023, 24 attendance percentages by school. There also is 2023 or 2022 and 2023, 2021 and 2022. You can compare those and look through that. Some highlights right now for this school year. Currently, the high totals are Johnson Elementary, Bridgeport Middle, and South Harrison High School. They seem to be leading the way right now with attendance percentages. You can review that and take a look at that. Now, the one thing that I really want to call your attention to is the last 2 pages. That is a breakdown of what the excuses are of why children are missing school. And that's pulled out of Weavis. You'll notice that there are 11,806 doctor notes that have been turned in. days worth. There's also 19,007 parent notes. There's also 2,094 medical appointments.
I wonder we can't get appointments.
The biggest number I want to call your attention to is the 27,218 days that are unexcused. Now, currently, there's a push right now for chronic absenteeism, and I understand that. We want all kids to be in school. I understand. But all the excused absences do not add up to where we are at with the unexcused days. And I still firmly believe that we need to continue to target unexcused absences and those that are absent, those that are truant. We still need to push that. The problem that we have right now is those numbers are increasing. The number of kids that are truant are increasing. They're increasing for a lot of different reasons. We have some family issues that need to be addressed in our community. And we are attempting to do that. We're well over 400 truancy cases currently in circuit court. We have probably 150 to 200 in magistrate court, either by open warrants that still haven't been served or active cases that are in front of a magistrate. We do approximately somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 truancy meetings a year. There's actually not much more time to fit any more in. There's more that we could do, but there's not really time to do more. Given the court schedule, I'm in court approximately every day, at least sometimes as many as, 2 or 3 times a day. And on judicial review days, we have approximately 30 to 35 cases that we hear. It's a problem. Our community has mental health needs that are not being met. Mental health needs are not being met because there are waiting lists. Extremely long waiting lists for in-home services for children and families. Can't get in to see a psychologist for a psych eval. We can't get anything in. There's no room, there's no space, there's just not time. These people don't have time in their schedule to fit all the needs. Our community has extreme needs and are not being met. I don't know what the answer to that is, but here's what I can tell you. I believe in one kid at a time, one case at a time, work with that kid, get that kid graduated, get them on with their life. I know that we want to focus on these percentages, and that's great for discussion. This is what I do with the percentages. I turn them upside down, turn them down. I don't pay any attention to them. I deal with the kid that's in front of me at the moment. That's what you have to do. Because if you get that kid across the stage, it's the old starfish thought. It mattered to that one. And with that, there's obviously suspensions that are in this too. Those are unexcused absences, and I know that kind of goes into what Mr. Snyder's going to talk about here in a moment. Behavior in schools, it all plays hand in hand. When there are issues and there are suspensions, I typically get involved in that, and we typically get down the road to juvenile petitions so that we can get services in the home. That helps that family, helps that child. The goal of graduating, being productive citizens in our community. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Snyder unless you guys have some questions. But look at that, and if you have questions, give me a call and ask me.
Are the court systems helping you in?
They're helping, but there's only so much they can do. The bottom line is this: kids don't show up at school. We parents don't show up. The parents and the kids don't show up at court hearings. They have to be personally served by the sheriff's department. It's just a long process. To be able to get these kids in court, to be able to get services in place, it's difficult. It is a struggle. It is a struggle.
And when you talk about statistics, 100% correct. You can look at them and they say one thing, but you don't know the real story. And I had a conversation with the superintendent of Hampshire County the other night at dinner, and he talked about, they've been basically their hands slapped by the State Board of Education over the high number of IEPs. Well, they have the Potomac Center there, so their percentage is always going to be through the roof. There's no way they can beat it. But they're in the same box as everyone else. We look at these attendance records, and you're looking and saying, well, Bird is down there. Well, they've got the Genesis Center there, so that's going to affect theirs. Those are things that you can't help. But those are only going to show up as statistics, and the reasoning behind that's never going to show. So there's, that's not making an excuse, but there are things. And I will say, I think everyone can agree that there's a whole different mindset in the workforce and in school after COVID.
It has.
Because before, I'm going to make, well, we were off for 6 months and they didn't miss me. So,
Right.
why can't, so there's
That's
more
right.
absenteeism in work and there's more absenteeism in the school system. And that's not an excuse either. It's just adding to an already bad problem.
And we all know that the more people stay home, the more anxiety and depression that occurs, the more fear of leaving your home occurs, and that makes it difficult for kids to reintegrate back into the school system and be productive. So staying home is not the answer.
So, do you have and I don't know if you can track it this way, but can you track student, for instance, chronic student versus, we have 19,000 illnesses verified by patients. So how many of those are recurring, right? Same student versus, 2,000 medical appointments.
We'd have to break that down by student. We'd have to,
Is that possible?
it's possible, and it'd be reams and reams and reams of paper.
Well, my thought process there is because if we got to get this under control somehow, we can't generalize it, right? You can't, we have to hit, like we were talking about, student by student. So I think you have to kind of look at that data to see what students are the chronic absence.
How
He
many-
has that.
How many do we have on the chronic absence form, like that they notified you? Do you know how many we have? For chronic absence where
They have a chronic absence
yes,
excuse.
yes, documented.
I don't
Right now.
know the answer to that, but I wouldn't say that we have more than probably 25 or 30 that are on that chronic.
You would think there
absence.
would be more,
But
but
there's not.
No.
There's not.
But I'm talking about for each category, right? So you've got 25 for the illness, right? What about, 14, 133 for OSS? How many of those are chronic offenders? Well, I don't want to say offenders, but chronic absences or repeaters. So all those, I mean, I don't want to overburden anybody, but at the same time, we got to look at it.
It's easier for the schools to do that
Sure.
than for Mr. Kirby
Oh,
and
yeah.
his group of people to do that.
Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
like asking 2 or 3 people to do the whole county when
Yeah.
somebody from each school can certainly look into that.
And that's absolutely fine, as long as we get the right data.
Right.
They can follow the counselors, because you can separate that data at that point and then start to focus on individual needs of students.
and most likely the schools, the ones that you're meeting on, I mean, the schools have a good idea of who those kids are
Absolutely.
that are their chronic
Absolutely they do.
offenders.
Every time we do meetings at schools, I send a list of kids that have
Yeah.
too many unexcused absences. Well, there's also excused absences in those too.
Sure.
So we'll have 14 that are unexcused and 14 that are excused. So we're able to address some of that in that fashion. But we address all of it because absenteeism is absenteeism. You can't teach an empty seat.
But to go back to kind of answer Mr. Hope's original question about the court system, every time something's in the court system, it's not just Jim Kirby in the court system. There's a prosecutor involved, there's a defense counsel involved, a lot of times probation officer involved,
Correct.
and the judge or the magistrate involved. And so everyone has to get their calendars aligned to even get there. on
Yeah,
time.
and sometimes that's a struggle.
And in addition to that, they've got their regular caseload. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, this is burdening the court system.
Oh, it is.
In an unreal way.
It is.
Mr. Kirby, what is it that you would need to stay on top of all of this? If you had your wish list,
Well,
what would you like?
Let me say this. Help wouldn't be a bad thing. However, it could be a bad thing if it's not managed correctly.
Help meaning,
Other folks to meet with kids at school so that we can increase the number of meetings that we have with parents, so that we can reach those parents. Problem is, you've got to say the same thing the same way. All of us do. Everybody has to say the same thing in the same way. Because I'm the one that ends up going to court, sitting in front of the judge and being questioned by the prosecutor's office, being questioned by the defense attorney. And I've got to know the information on each one of those kids intimately, and I've got to know what was said in those meetings so that I can testify to that. If not, we're going to have the same thing that we have now with DHHR workers. When we do judicial reviews, every single DHHR worker comes up there for all-day hearings because they have so many cases. That's the problem. The more people you have, the more they're going to be in court having to talk about what's going on, and the less they're going to be out there meeting with kids. So whatever we do, if we do add people at some point in time, it's got to be slow, it's got to be methodical, and they've all got to be trained and do the same thing in the same way. So,
Felt that somebody ought to be in charge of the elementary, somebody ought to be in charge of the middle, somebody ought to be in charge of the high school, and you be in charge of all overall.
I don't disagree with that, but when we're talking elementary, you're talking magistrate court and circuit court, because we file on 10-year-olds in circuit court, because we want services in the home. So that takes both court systems. Then middle school and the high school. Middle school is all, for the most part, circuit court, unless we know that there's a parental issue that we need to address, and then it ends up being a criminal complaint, which I make that decision. And in high school, up through 17 years of age, it's a juvenile petition. Once they turn 18 years of age, then it's a criminal complaint on the student. And we do file those on a regular basis.
Statute still only allows for one truant officer, attendance
Correct.
officer per county.
Correct.
So ultimately, it doesn't matter who we hire, it still comes back to you.
That's correct.
Being the only one who really, if they required it, you could be the only one that could go to court.
Correct. Correct.
So it still falls on
And-
one person.
And because of his length of time in the position, I mean, he has got such great relationships, and there's a lot of things that he's able to work through, I think, because of your experience and your time working with the judges, that maybe doesn't happen in other places, because I've worked with him now long enough to see the difference that he makes in just kids. I mean, kids that he'll bring in or we think are going to drop out, the different ways that he can really work, and he'll work with Mrs. Snyder to get those kids graduated. It's amazing to watch, and I've watched him save kids individually. We bring them in and we talk to them, and I've watched them walk out of my office when they were quitting, and before they walked out of the office, they're staying in school, and you've worked out a way to help them get graduated. So I've seen that side of it, and I don't know, it's hard to replace that when you would put somebody else in there. So I appreciate that so much, because we really do work through, like you said, those one at a time. I know we're looking at this big picture, but the kids that I've watched make a difference, kids that maybe I had when they were in elementary school and they're struggling as a 16 or 17-year-old, the difference is remarkable. But it might just be that one, but you got to take those steps. So there's that whole piece too that he does in working with United in that regard. So I appreciate that. I appreciate his expertise working with the judges, because they do reach out occasionally to my office when there's an issue, and he's already on the ball or come up to tell me what's happening. So I don't know how you duplicate that, Jim.
I don't know, somebody will at some point in time.
That's right. That's right. We probably need training. Yeah.
I just,
He's
not allowed to.
before that happens, we should get together and pick the brain a little bit. Make sure we have a process.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think-
It'll be a little while. It won't be that long, but it'll be a little while.
They keep having grandbabies, and it's making it harder and harder.
Harder and harder, yeah. Yes, it is.
So you're appreciated, so. we'll
Yes,
get you-
very
Thank you very much, I
We'll
appreciate
get you a
it.
certificate.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's actually a nice guy in here. I don't know, some of the calls I get a little bit.
But my point was, he has to oversee it all,
Oh,
but if you had somebody in the elementary, somebody middle, somebody that worked, and then they come back to him with all the information.
we do have Sarah that does elementary
Right.
meetings, and Ashley, we do have folks helping.
Yeah,
He
there's,
does kind of stick with the high school.
they do the elementary, and I do the middle and high.
Yeah, and I think there's a good relationship there.
Sarah's doing some court work too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
And the same way with the relationship that you have now with Jason. I mean, it's just really a great team because it's all interconnected.
Absolutely.
And they're all really working well, but it's just such a big task.
One kid at a time.
When
And that
doing
segues
jobs.
to Jason.
Yes.
Just don't make it all that, can't bring it back.
It doesn't, I can't reach my back anymore. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jim. Jason?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. We had a couple of things we wanted to talk about tonight. Obviously, Todd and I work together. Most of our jobs integrate with a lot of safety and IT, and as many other things that he does. First and foremost, we have a couple of guest speakers tonight. I have seated here in the front, this is Clint Lance. He's from Protective Service. He works Capitol Police. He's a retired state policeman, 26 years. He has been the kind of the compliance officer through the state. He's come up and checked our schools with a checklist, and he has offered, a lot of tutelage that the state wishes that our schools, we do stay compliant. He has some insight that I wanted to share with you all tonight, and he's going to talk just briefly if we could do that. So I'll say, Mr. Lance, how do you feel?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't ugly enough. I'm battling some skin cancer issues, so I assure you I'm not contagious or anything like that. Just looks horrible, but I thank you. Again, I hate to say that I'm from the capital because I don't live down there. I live in Payton City. I have a region of the state. I have 12 counties and about 140 schools I've had to travel to and do some type of vulnerability assessment at each one of those schools. I've had the opportunity to visit all of your schools over this past year. Can we always do better? Of course we can. The state has a recommended checklist of recommendations of improvements that you can do at each one of your schools. Some of them are super simple, like number of doors and windows. Some of them are high dollar, like building man traps and things of that nature. So again, that comes down to funding, and I don't have any money to give to you. I wish I did. I do know that the state, specifically Department of Homeland Security, which we work for, has asked for $173 million to provide to counties for school safety updates. So hopefully you all will be the recipient of some of those. I would like to say that you are fortunate to have Mr. Snyder because there's only one other county in my region that actually has a full-time security guy who is a retired police officer or a retired military member. So every principal that I spoke with in your county always said, Mr. Snyder, he comes around and checks the doors, and Mr. Snyder's walking the hallways and all that stuff. So he's not paying me to say those things. I just want you to know that you are fortunate to have that. Some of the counties are not. And from a security aspect, you guys do a lot of things right. But compared to some of the other counties, can we spend money more efficiently? Of course we can. I would say it'd be nice to have every classroom have an additional locking system. There's several different brands. A night lock is a brand of a lock that a teacher themselves can actually secure their door. And to be honest with you, it pains me to have this conversation with you all and with your principals and with schools around this state. But unfortunately, these are the times we live in. Safety and security is of paramount. We owe it to our teachers and we owe it to our students. I have kids that went to public school. My wife teaches, my daughter-in-law teaches, excuse me, my grandkids will go to public school. So it pains me to have that conversation. There's a couple other things and I'll be done. The purpose of the program through the state, specifically the governor's new school safety initiative, is to kind of bridge that gap within the school systems and get some type of uniformity, right, when it comes to the marking on the doors and the windows. As you all know, not so much your county because your doors are numbered and your classrooms are numbered, but some of the counties that I've gone to, once between schools within the same county, they're totally different. So trying to get some type of uniformity when it comes to safety and security so we can get those first responders where they need as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Secondly, school resource officers. Every principal I've talked to, if they have a school resource officer, they're very happy to have one. And the schools that do not have them wish they did. There is a bill in the legislature right now to allow school districts to hire retired police officers and veterans to fill those roles as a school safety officer. If it gets passed, hopefully there will be some funding to help offset those costs. There are counties, as we speak, that are already doing that. They're paying them to provide that, retired law enforcement officers, no veterans, but retired law enforcement that still have their credentials. So that's another option that you all could look into. The most important thing is, though, that we train. Every school that I've been to, and the state requires you to have school safety initiatives, your writings. They want to know where you're going to take the students if something should happen. The most important thing is, though, nobody's going to have time to look at those 3-ring binders if something happens. These events are very stressful and dramatic. So it's important that we train. We're having those training scenarios with your teachers, with your principals, and your school staff, so they know exactly what to do in the event something like this should happen. And the good news is you guys are already doing that. You have an Alice event scheduled for Monday. Monday, I'm going to travel to one of your schools and observe it. We're very fortunate in the northern part of the state. I'm not trying to bash on the southern part of the state, but the northern part of the state, we are training, okay? And it's important that we're doing that. The Stop the Bleed kits, be nice if we had Stop the Bleed kits in every classroom. Some of the schools do have that. You guys do have Stop the Bleed kits available in the schools. It's important to get as many people trained on that as possible. And lastly, what I'd like to talk about is the aftermath. What happens after one of these traumatic events happens at one of your schools? God forbid that it ever does, but you are going to look at years of lawsuits as a result of it. So are we doing everything we can to say that we've done this, this, and this to help prevent this? So it's important that we're documenting those, we're building that resume in the event that something happens. That's it. Do you all have any questions of me?
Yeah, I guess
Yes, sir.
threat assessment's always tough because you don't want to give your any sort of tactical advantage, and you don't want to say what's out there. Plus, you don't want to say we're prepared. Something happens.
Sure.
And they got you. But I mean, do you feel comfortable that we would be, at least in the top 5% of schools in the state?
Well, I haven't seen every school, so I have 12
Yeah.
counties. I would say that yes, you guys are above average than some of the school districts that I've seen. But listen, schools like Doddridge County, Tyler County, they've spent a lot of money on school safety, but they have a lot of money. They have a lot of.
And they've only got 3 buildings.
And they only
so
have
we've got a lot of
5 or
buildings.
6 schools, correct.
We've got a
So
lot.
you have
But
23. So yes, you are doing a lot of things right. That is for
And
sure.
I think this board is always, in the 12 years I've been here, the board's always concerned with safety.
Mhm.
We're almost full of we've almost got all of our man traps built. But anything that comes, and I was just thinking, as you talked about Stop the Bleed kits, we took we talked about it, Mr. Tucker and all even, and asked that we have settlement money from vape detection. Well, I think we may be up to date on our vape detection. We may need to buy some more. But I wouldn't be averse to the superintendent looking at the Stop the Bleed kits for every building. We've got some additional safety money there that was kind of, free money from a lawsuit that we were going to put into vape detectors, which we probably haven't. I mean, we could always buy some, but maybe we can divert some of that money for that if the board, if that's something that's needed, and I do agree with that. Even if you didn't do every classroom, you did every other classroom.
Sure. Or if you wanted to purchase the night locks for the individual classrooms, there's a lot of different options.
Because we're almost
we're
done with the
spending
larger capital expenses of the man traps. We're
Yes, sir.
almost completed. So
Yes,
once
sir.
we get those finished, and I think we're good on defibrillators. That was my other thing. I think we're, I want to make sure we had them at all the football fields, basketball arenas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're all covered on that. So you know, from my standpoint, if we look at the other things that you suggest, the stop the bleed kits and things like that, that maybe, you know, just kind of saying to Mr. Snyder, you know, from the board standpoint, if that money needs directed in another way, rather than just having it sit there waiting on the next round of vape detectors, that's what I would do.
Well, you know, and people that are trained to use it, right?
Right.
Have you heard of the golden hour? So when we were overseas, the golden hour is to get somebody that is injured to a higher level of care, right? So your rural schools probably need those a little more than your right here in the city, right? Because something
We
happens.
saved a referee with a defibrillator, so
Yeah,
we know that.
I'm talking to stop the bleed kits.
Oh, absolutely, but anything,
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
right, you're 100% right, but even if you had one for every 2 rooms.
Right.
And then make sure you had them throughout the building.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be nice to have in every classroom, but if you can't, you still have those, right?
And
in
accessible.
order- Exactly, that's.
There was a time when our defibrillators were in the school safe, so someone wouldn't take them.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thank
Thank you for
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have a representative here from Siemens. I believe, Mr. Poole, would you like to, I think he has some visual aids as well as the presenter. We'll turn this over to Todd.
This portion refers to the emergency alert system that we've been kind of talking about. We spent a good portion of the spring last year putting this together and lining this up. And then lately, we've been working with Mr. Sarver from Siemens to get all the components of this on a co-op contract. So I think we're down to one little piece that we're waiting on, so we're pretty close. So, but I'd like to ask Mr. Sarver to come up. This is Jeff Sarver from Siemens to discuss the system that we're looking at. I've got some handouts here. So thank you for allowing me to come in. So when I started talking to Todd a while back, looking at the existing system you guys have in place, and Todd had some concerns, and we have some concerns about the age of what's here and the capacity of what it can do. So we started talking about, you know, what enhancements that school wanted to do to the buildings to give you know, more visibility, more usefulness to that system. So we're looking to add on, excuse me, and reuse some of the existing equipment and supplement with additional new hardware. So one of the big things we're looking at is in the admin areas of each school having a stack of light switches, so to speak. So with each push of any button, we can put the school into a code status, code red, code blue, and that can trigger an automated event through our system so that in addition to having the lights come on in the office and lights on the outside of the school buildings to show what status that school's in, we can have automated events that would go to computers on desks, cell phones, different outlets, like your signs, LED signs, television screens in classes, and integrate all that together so that if it is an urgent matter, you know, there's a storm coming and you need to shelter in place, that would be triggered by one of those push buttons, and the message would go out, you know, school-wide or district-wide. You know, by event, we can really organize that stuff into distributing that information as quickly as we can. Like I said, there's some existing equipment, some of the TVs are in place already, some of the signs are in place, and we're looking to augment that, add more throughout, gyms, cafeterias, music rooms, that type of area. In addition to those, we're looking at a wearable type button that office staff, so if they're not right next to the button on the wall and a situation happens, they have a button on their person they can push and initiate a urgent matter, you know, code red, and get, you know, authorities en route quicker to give that additional level of protection. So if there's a hostile situation in an office environment, they can get help coming before it escalates to a point where it's needed. In addition to that, we're looking at glass break detectors for the lobby areas where you have your man traps. So if somebody were to try to get through one of the man traps and they break the glass, it would be an automatic detection of that event. And again, an alert would go out to the proper authorities and notifications would go out to people that are on the list. So your staff would know that there's a situation that somebody needs help in that office area. What else? Looking at possibility of expanding down the road. So it's not a system that we're going to put in place now and it's already full, it's doing what it can do. This is an early phase. It's a new system that we're using in the past about 4 years. It really has a lot more features than the old system as far as expanding. So basically anything that with IP addresses as far as your monitors and things like that, we can expand into. So if, after today, and the system's in place, if you decide there's a need for, more displays, cell phones, desktop computers, all that stuff can be added over time. So if you have another need that you find with more notification needs, those messages can go out to all the parents of the school and share those messages kind of like your, snow warnings and that type of alerts. So we're just looking at the foundation of having this expandability in place. Any questions? That was a lot of information. Sorry, was trying to get it all out quickly.
So we have, what is it that we have that connects all the schools to local authorities? We have,
They don't.
Gary system, yeah, would that work? Would that be?
What was the question?
It's,
So it's asking what connects us to local authorities.
yeah, we have those buildings, right?
Yeah, this is basically an addition to that. We have the backbone in place for this. We have a lot of this structure already built. This is the next level.
So it's compatible. then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the integration to the police radios, so we can trigger certain events off of the system would automatically dispatch through the police radios. That is also integrated on the new system as what you already have. So those would be brought together. And an addition here that we're looking at is also the fire alarm systems in each school, putting in modules to interface all that so that any event from those could be linked to an output event to notify, internal staff, as far as maintenance staff, depending on the type of event that can go. Individual events can be routed anywhere, any person or any group of people. That makes sense.
The system itself is basically a shell, so there's a lot of things we can do to build off of. So a lot of different integrations we can do. This is just core of what we're interested in starting with. And,
That includes awesome cameras. Outside, inside.
Right. So the system as it is right now, we're not looking at that integration, but if down the road you decide you want to have cameras tied in so that when you get an event to the system, we can have that link to integrate the view of those cameras that are in the area associated with that event all tied together.
Todd, you might want to back up. This is a system that the county had already looked at. I mean, we have the large TVs, there's the alert buttons in all the offices.
we started an earlier phase of this.
Yeah,
Quite a while ago. That's what I meant by the backbone structure is in place, so we have.
Payment structure.
Yeah.
That stuff
Yes,
is there
yes,
now.
yeah.
I know it was,
Yeah.
in the school when I was
So I
there.
guess, the question is then, are you anticipating bringing us a proposal for additions in this budget session?
To build off of it, yeah. And to upgrade as well. So we'd be under the new platform.
Right now, with the way that system works, it does notify you. If you hit the button in your office, it will like if in a cafeteria, there's large TV screens, and it'll come up what that code is doing, or what's happening. I
This-
mean, that's the part of it that initially was installed.
Mhm. Yeah, that only covered one code, and this will
Yeah.
take it to covering all of our codes. And of course, Code Blue is probably the most common one that we have in the schools. But the good thing about what we're looking to do is we would actually integrate with our paging systems in the building. So when the message goes out, it's going to go out over the intercom as well. So we can integrate even our Promethean boards in the classroom to get a message going across those. So there's a lot of potential here to be able to increase communication during any of those events.
We're also looking at, with the paging, having the ability of the desktop, any telephone in the county, someone can pick up and have a secure number that they dial from that phone, and it would link them into the system to be able to make overhead pages from basically any phone in the county.
Is there any system out there that has this total package right now that you all have installed and the whole deal?
So we have Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Walter Reed Medical Center, places like that. We have some of these systems out there that we're.
Nothing here locally though that.
So locally, we have a similar system. They don't have as many features in place. That's Ohio County School District, where they have our DeSigo head-end system where you were asking about CCTV. The access control of their CCTV is mainly what they're using it for, so that any event on those systems throughout the county all come back to their central office, and their operations center can look at those. Kind of a different way they're using it, but it's the same type of integration we're looking at.
Mr. Poole, have you seen any of this firsthand? I mean,
Well-
besides what we have?
Again, it's kind of it's kind of a system that you create and build. So yes, I've seen the back end. We can't see the functionality of the endpoints. That's a little bit different because we need to have those in place. But as far as the back end and everything that it can do in the programming side, yes, I've seen that. And it's actually, it's instantaneous, the alerts that go out. So we were actually upstairs talking with Mr. Lance and showing him the system that we're looking at. And he said it was unlike anything he'd seen anywhere he's been in the state.
So, you have anything in cost? I mean.
We have some estimates, but because he's still working with the government co-op, I don't have those final estimates yet. So we should have those pretty soon.
Yeah.
Is that per county or per school or?
So I have it stepping back from the mic. I have it right now as a complete system, countywide. We have a breakdown as hardware by school, but I don't have it priced by school.
But every school would get the same.
Yeah, so we're looking at 22 buildings.
Yeah, I think that's it. Number.
Would your team or would our team do the installations?
Well, as far as the cabling, that's something we worked on this previous summer. So our technology staff pulled all the cables for this project. So that piece is done. That's a big piece. So we spent a good portion of the summer pulling about 25,000 feet of cables in our building. So as far as the endpoints, that piece is ready to go. We do have some penetrations to the outside that still need to be done because we didn't know exactly when we'd be doing this. We didn't want holes in the building. So we'll complete those once we're set and get that piece completed.
So as far as the, like I was saying about the buttons and the lights, those endpoints, we would install that, put it on the wall, test it all, go to training, programming, all that. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So as they were just saying, just briefly to touch, the biggest thing that I've had was with transportation when we had a meeting with all the bus drivers. They always said, when I pull up to a school, I would love to know if something was going on before I let the kids out. With these beacons that we're talking about, these are going to be at every every part of the building on the outside where they would be entering, they would be able to see that this school is locked down under a code red or a code blue or whatever the code is. I think that's really important. And we talked about that. So I know with transportation, that was a big thing in our training we did at the beginning of the year, as well as just the average person dropping off their kid at school. What's going on here?
Are there no schools, I'm sorry, are there no schools in the county that have
Oh,
those
sorry.
flashing? I know Bridgeport has them because,
They do. It's a very small integration. It does, I believe, a couple colors, doesn't it, Todd? But this is
but do
going
any
to,
of the other schools in the county have them yet?
they do not.
Except
Right.
Bridgeport does, I know.
That's my understanding. Is that correct, Todd? Yeah, I believe it is just.
Not what you're talking about.
Nothing.
I know that we have a switch that
Right, yeah,
they
you
would
do.
flip in that case.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So that's just something else. They didn't touch on a whole lot, but I think that's really big for a parent bringing the kid to school, bus drivers, that sort of thing. That's huge when you pull up RCB, the thing's flashing. They're going to stop right there.
Jason, I don't want to interrupt you, but you know, as a high school principal, you have kids coming and going all the time. You have buses that are out. If you would have an event, you have to remember, oh, did I call the bus garage to tell the buses, you know, and
Right.
so this is moving in the right direction.
Oh, I think it is. I truly do. Yeah.
According to this piece, the bus drivers could know ahead of time anyway. I mean, radio and all
Yes.
that would be automatic.
Right.
That's correct. It could be integrated for that. Yes.
Well, another component of this that we didn't mention was the possibility to integrate with our access control. So that
Right.
our badges turn off for, you know, so if we got people that are itinerant staff coming into the building, they're under code blue, they may not walk in, or code yellow, they might not walk into a situation. So the badges would be off of that person, but available for law enforcement, or whoever. So that is a piece of this in the future bill.
Are we, while you pass that up, for transportation, are the interoperable radios, they're all online now, correct? Working better, I mean, should be a big improvement.
Okay, moving along. Keep everybody here all night. So this is, I asked Mrs. Knight to put together for me, and she did a really good job with this. This is some information on some of the discipline this is just this current school year up until December 22nd of 2023. Is that correct, Mrs. Knight? Yes. So just looking at the front page, just a couple things I wanted to show you, and this leads into what Mr. Hamrick had said earlier about the vape detectors. Some of our biggest issues, obviously, are possession, substances, tobacco, or nicotine. That can fall under some of the vapes. Insubordination is huge this year, if you can see that. So when we look at that big number for insubordination, our principals and staff are doing a really good job in the schools trying to curtail every time the vape detectors go off. But when they're spending as much time as they are going to some of these that really have the high numbers, what that does is that takes time away when that vape detector is going off and they're getting that alert to go to the bathroom wherever these vape detectors are going off. And it just can't be monitored the way it's intended to be. So by buying more vape detectors, this time last year, we needed vape detectors. But as you can see going through that, I'm not going to go through every page. The discipline this year is a lot higher for different guidelines in the out-of-school suspensions, or they seem to be higher this year. So we are working with the resources we have in the school to try to keep these kids in the school and not so much the out-of-school. So we are working very hard with Mrs. Knight and, for our middles and high schools in particular, that seems to be a really big hotspot if you look at some of those numbers compared to last year. Some are fairly consistent, but there are some that are very high. So we are going to work as hard as we can to try to reduce that, keeping the kids in school. But again, I think our answer is going to be not so much buying extra vape detectors at this point of the juncture. We need to work on some of our discipline in the school. So if we work on that, I have just recently obtained a new set of weapon detectors that I am going to be able to they're in my office, and I will be able to take to the schools as we have been doing. I've been having to rob from one school to go to another school, and then the school that I robbed from really needed them. And then I'm taking them to another school, and it's half a dozen of one, 3 dozen of another. So now I have obtained a set of weapon detectors that we will be able to take to the schools. And I get these classroom walkthroughs that we're doing, random walkthroughs. We have found vapes this year, and I think that is going to be our best way to combat this, more so than extra vape detectors. So it's going to be a lot more work, but I think it is definitely going to work doing the extra walkthroughs through the schools. So that was another thing, and that was where we came with maybe allotting some of that extra money to, possibly doing the extra walkthroughs at some of these schools. And the Stop the Bleed kits was another issue that Mr. Lance had mentioned. We could possibly use some of that money for.
Those aren't really budget busters.
They're not. No, they're not.
That settlement money, we'll receive 3 payments. We get it November, December every year. We received this one, it's about 33,000. We'll
Right.
receive another one next November and then another one from the Juul settlement.
Correct.
That's what the money is.
So that can be used, for some of that. We do have Stop the Bleed
About
kits in the
90,000
schools.
total.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can maybe purchase more, put them in the classrooms. And everybody's being trained this year. We have integrated our Stop the Bleed training with our ALICE training. So they're going to do ALICE training, and then they're going to do Stop the Bleed training for every employee in that school. So everybody is going to know how to use Stop the Bleed. It's a test. They have to watch a video, and then they do a practical in the school. So that's kind of a big thing that we've integrated this year to make sure that they all get to stay in compliance with state code.
And you hope the kits dry rot and you throw them away in a few years.
They do have to be replaced occasionally, so there are expiration dates on them, so we don't want to get
You hope they
too many.
replace them all.
Right.
Who's doing the walkthroughs? Who's you're talking about?
The walkthroughs, I was,
With the weapon.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I misunderstood. Well, we were talking about so many things there, I was jumping around. So the walkthroughs, what I do essentially is I go to the schools. We work out with the principal. Sometimes it's right on the fly, so there's no notice. And what we do is we pick hallways, and we've been doing it. We did it some last year, but we've been doing it more this year. And we set them up in a hallway, and we walk the kids out to the classroom, keeping an adult in the classroom, maybe kind of do a walk through the classroom as the kids are coming out in the hallway. They're given a brief instruction, and they all just walk through the detector. It's amazing what we find when this happens, but it keeps everybody in check and they don't know it's coming. So all the schools, middle and high schools, are getting to experience this, and we just did South Harrison, both the high school and the middle school. We did that last week and the week before. So we had really good results with that, and I think it was an eye opener for all the kids. So we don't touch any of them; they just walk through, just like we would at a theme park or an airport. It's not much different. If it goes off, we do a second. But that's kind of what we're doing, and I think that's going to curtail a lot more so than additional vape detectors. Again, last year I thought we needed, but things have changed. And that comes in with some of the discipline that you were looking at in those charts. Moving on, we are going to be completing by February 12th. All the schools will be in compliance with our active shooter in the Stop the Bleed. So they will be completed. We recently had 3 officers, deputies certified in DARE. They're going to be teaching our elementary. They're going to be mainly their feeder school. So it's anywhere from a 6 to 12 week class is my understanding. So they will be hitting these youth at a very young age and some of the dangers. I think they're going to do a really good job of that. I'm going to turn over, I did touch briefly on the vape detectors, but let me move on here with the ones that I've got marked. Secure entrances. Last school year, South Harrison High School was finally completed for a secure entry. Liberty RCB They're going to be part of the transitional plan. There are a lot more work involved. Bridgeport Middle, Bridgeport High, and Mountaineer Middle. I think we're going to focus on Mountaineer Middle, and that seems to be one that's not going to be quite as in-depth. So we're definitely looking at possibly getting some others this next school year. Possibly Bridgeport Middle as well. Yes. One thing that we haven't done, the Harrison County EMS has never had access to our schools. I said, what in the world's going on here? Why do they not have access to get to school? So they have just, this school year, I have granted that they have little substations throughout the county. They now have a key fob that whoever their officer in charge is, will use that key fob and they can get in any of our schools. We should not have to open the doors for Harrison County units. So that has been taken care of. Todd's got a couple things and then we will be done. So
Well, excuse me, before
very
Todd.
in-depth. Yes, I'm sorry.
I know we're doing everything we can about entrances, secure entrances, vapes, weapons and things of that nature. What are we doing about battery against school employees and threat against an employee or student and physical fights without injury? Or how are we doing this how are we dealing with that kind of stuff
Well,
other than following the policy?
no, I got you. Well, there are certain situations that we look at, and it depends on every instance as far as what happened during that incident. So yes, we do follow policy, but again, we on some of these cases we're using some of the resources we have in the school, BCBA, possibly there may be some other issues with some of the resources that we have. We have some schools that are very outlandish with resources. And I don't feel that we've been using them to our potential. So I've been working with Mrs. Knight as well as Susie. We are doing what's best for each particular incident. So when you look at some of these, some can be very extreme and some are maybe, because they think it's one way, we look at it as maybe another way. But we want to make sure that it is for the best interest of the safety for all the kids in the school, as well as that kid. And we want to get that kid help. By just kicking him out for 10 days, you don't offer any services, he comes back, or if you kick him out and maybe send him to another school, maybe that wasn't the best solution for that kid at that time. So we're looking at this a little closer. We want to try to keep the kids in school. Obviously, there are some kids that can't be in school. And they're extreme behaviors. And those extreme behaviors, I think we are answering. But we do want to keep the kids in school as much as possible.
And what kind of support are you providing our staff?
The staff, I mean, I think what happens
After
there,
an incident?
right, after the incident, I think that we obviously have a SAT meeting at some point with that student. And typically, depending on, obviously, the middle schools have teams. High schools don't have teams, but the middle schools have teams that we try to get integrated in the manifestation if we're going to have a meeting about this kid after the 10-day period, depending on the situation. Again,
I'm talking about the adult, our staff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like,
I
what
misunderstood.
support are we providing our staff that's been assaulted?
Well, I think we have options in the school, such as, moving that student to another location. I think that, again, it depends on the situation. If a staff member gets assaulted, we can't have that going on. And we've got to do everything we can to make sure that staff member is supported. So we work with administration. We try our very best to make sure that student this doesn't happen again. Offer any kind of services that we could to that student, as well as the staff member, by keeping that student with maybe another teacher. Maybe that student works better with another teacher, or maybe that student just doesn't belong in the school.
One of the things that we've just really discovered is our discipline policy with the new WEVIS does not match. The codes in new WEVIS does not match the codes here.
Right.
So we looked at that, like sometimes it'll be listed as a battery. We also have staff members, like level 3s and 4s. When I was an administrator, I was the only one that put
Put
in
in
a
a 3 or
level
4.
3 or a 4. Because I knew the policy, I knew the wording, and I put it in. We have discovered that we have a lot of staff entering,
Yes.
and they go, it's all over the place. Some it's probably not enough, and some it's, so for level 3s and 4s, we're working in the future that the administrators will put that in with that classroom teacher. It's gonna be the administrator put that in. The level 1s and 2s, they can still use put it in that way, but our discipline policy, when we looked at it, it needs to match the codes in Weavis. And it does not. So we are working on that right now.
Yeah.
So it's clear that this is what happened. When you go to put it in Weavis, it's the same language.
Right.
Right now, it does not do that.
Right now, we just have middle school that puts in codes.
I think it's,
I don't think the high school teacher puts
Anyone
in codes.
can.
Well, they don't discipline
Right.
at the high school.
They're not
The
supposed to.
teachers don't.
They're
we're
not supposed
finding
to, but
out.
we've
I
had
can
some-
tell you, when I was a
Yeah.
school administrator, the way you would think, right? That was not happening, but we have discovered that
Yes.
we have administrators that have lots of people are putting in the discipline. And that
We're
it's
working on
too, it's like Jim says, you gotta have a
And it
same
gives- it
message,
gives wrong-
same,
It gives wrong numbers. I
yeah.
mean, it really does, because what you consider maybe a battery and what the administrator, once they look at.
Or they know the
totality,
history of the
it's gonna be
child
different, sure.
that
So-
they may not know, and it's not really, it's just something we've just kind of uncovered, and we're going to
Right.
fix that.
Yes.
We've already had that
Definitely.
conversation.
Yeah, we have.
So we have teachers that administer discipline and recorded in Weavis.
Put it in, we,
No, they should never be doing that.
No, we
And
should.
I'm sure our two administrative assistants over at address
yeah,
that.
we discovered it in some,
Yeah.
because we were looking at those too, and I'm like, my goodness, 17. When you go in to see who put it in,
Yeah.
it's not always the administrator.
Well, it should-
So we
Always
just
first.
discovered that probably in the last month.
Yeah.
When we started pulling these numbers, and we're fixing that. It will be
We are.
fixed.
Yes.
My thing is, as you say,
I don't know.
every, a lot of, are you finding a lot of administrators are saying, well, that's what the policy says, 10 days out, automatically, it's 10 days out. Are you finding a lot of that where they don't look at each individual case and the child may have an IEP or behavior or whatever situation, well, we can get him out for 10 days or her out for 10 days. Instead of taking each individual case and weighing all the situation.
You're absolutely correct, yes. And
And I just-
that's been a problem. That has been a
It
problem.
definitely has been a problem.
It has,
I mean,
big, yes.
because they want to say, well, that's what the policy says, and it's an easy way out for.
Sure. For 10
An
days.
administrator.
For 10 days.
To say, well, that's what the policy says,
Then you get them back,
and then you get them back.
right.
And then,
Then you're wanting to do another thing. So
That's
we are working together, and I think, we're gonna do everything we can to use the resources we have in the school, protect both the kids, the staff, and I think that's where we need to go. We need to make sure the right people are administering discipline. We need to, each case is different. You're exactly right. And I think that's what we're doing. So we're definitely working. Any other questions?
No.
Good? Okay. I'm
Thank
trying to be quick, definitely. Mr. Poole, I believe he's got a couple things that we wanted to touch on as well. He's going to touch on with some other things that are being integrated for school safety this school year.
And I'll be brief, and these are a lot of things that we've just been working on or things we're working towards. As we do these secure entrances, we always upgrade access control. But we can never have enough. I mean, our ultimate goal would be to have all of our exterior doors covered by access control and badge readers. That would be our ultimate goal. That's a tough, that's an expensive thing. But that's where we'd like to be and where I would see us in the future. Security cameras, we finished a high school upgrade last year. We still need to work on our middle schools and elementaries to get those upgraded. We have a mixed match of older and newer cameras within those buildings, so we need to get them up on par with some of our newer schools and what we did with the high schools. Another issue that we hope to put in the budget this year is radio relays for law enforcement, first responders at the United High School in Wilsonburg. There is a pocket between towers where that building sits, and it really only came to light with the move of United High School to that building. We have a full-time PRO there who noticed that there's a lot of dead spots within that building. So that's going to be something critical. We've had that site surveyed. I don't know why this never came up in the past. We've done code drills out there with law enforcement in the past, and I really don't know. We've had that discussion, but we've done those systems at Johnson, South Harrison Complex, Liberty High School, and Mountaineer Middle School. They work really well to give them radio within the building. So in the future, if we ever do any builds in the future, I feel like that probably needs to be part of the spec when we build these buildings, because the newer buildings especially, have 4-foot walls, thick walls, and makes it difficult for those signals.
Yes,
to get
especially
into
some
buildings.
of the newer, we have built a CFR, you do that insulated concrete,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Yeah, insulated concrete forms, you're not gonna get out
Yep.
there, so you probably need a repeater and.
Right. Right, you would think Johnson Elementary, where it sits, wouldn't have that problem, but it has that problem.
Yeah.
So, cell phone boosters is also an issue at the Wilsonburg building. So we need to look at maybe investing in a booster out there for that building. And until you're in that building, you really don't realize how big that building is. And then you start looking down that one hallway, and you're like, wow, this is a long building. So, South Harrison is a dead zone as well. And has been for years. So that's just kind of the wish list, I guess you might say, and things that we are aware of from a needs perspective with safety in the county from a tech standpoint. So that's all we have.
Tom, like Norwood's closing on. Are you going in and taking, or did you go in and take all the cameras and everything?
We don't do that just for the safety and security of the building itself. We have break-ins. This happened at Lost Creek, for example. Because that building's in Adamston, we had the same thing. We had some break-ins at Adamston. Because we left the cameras in place, we were able to determine who those people were who were breaking in the building. So it's really our duty to keep those buildings secure until we sell it. And that's bad, for us, but we gotta keep it secure. So
when we sell them, do we remove?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we reuse all that equipment. Yeah, our intercom systems, our access control, we repurpose all that. Yeah.
Because, people that buy these buildings, if the camera system's already there, that's, and for what they buy them for, it's, it's not feasible for us to set them up.
No. If we can reuse it, we'll remove it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. All right, that, done, Mr. Snyder?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're not staying for the rest of the meeting?
I don't think so, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
And this is down to item 4, delegations. I don't believe we have any delegations tonight. Superintendent's update.
I was told to keep it short. It is National School Counseling Week, so we want to say congratulations to our school counselors. We've put some things out online. We did ask them if they'd like to come to a meeting, and they said just recognize what we're doing. Their theme is school counseling, standards-based, student-focused. So, and they are recognizing them this week. Also, just to give you an update, the middle of the year benchmarks have been completed, and Julie and We had to extend it because of the snow days, and Pam will have you that information at the next meeting on where we're at for the middle of the year benchmarks. Just want to say thank you to the schools for working around all that. You know, snow days always create a whole issue, so they have to work around all that to make it work. I think we have a facilities update, Jimmy, keep it short. And train, but let's talk about electric buses.
Already read
That's
about
right.
that.
So, well, first of all, the masonry work, is part of the Brook project. It's really nice to be completed.
The letters are
Are the
back.
letters back out?
They are. Robert returned them.
We're still having a little bit of a problem with new elevator. If you've heard anything at Victory Elementary, has to do with specs and specifications with fire marshal, the sprinkler system. But they're going to have it online probably within the next week. Special accommodation from the fire marshal is going to kind of help us out, and we're going to get it corrected for probably about 5 months. It's like all the other parts.
Elevators are real bad. Extremely bad.
So if there's no questions about facility, I'll go over the transportation, just to kind of give you guys.
I want to thank Danny and you and everybody that's worked on that RCB batting cage. I've had a couple calls, and then I'd love it if it could be ready in time. But I do understand that waiting on certain things is a problem. But thank you for getting that taken care of.
So I sort of say Dr. Manchin. Senator Manchin's gotten involved in this situation. So you know that we were funded originally, fully funded for the second round of the EPA Clean Bus grant. And that was on, they announced that on the 9th of January. The 1st of February, they announced that we no longer qualify. We had to self-certify. It has to do, part of it's Title I funding, and they come up with a system to evaluate this self-certification process, which originally they thought that we qualified, then the EPA came out and said that we didn't. There was 3 counties involved. It was Mineral, Harrison, and Mon County. So Senator Manchin's team had gotten involved on that, and they kind of came out. Senator Manchin was pretty upset. He said he'd been working with the EPA for the last couple of years to try to change their methodology, how they evaluate these rural counties and states. A lot of it has to do with the miles traveled. So it could be that we're too close to the United Hospital Center. And it's just a real antiquated way that they have. They said that there's some flaws in that. Long story short, we're not going to get fully funded, which we're going to get up to 5 buses, and that would be funded at $395,000 per bus. But there is still a possibility that we are partially funded, which means that if we're going to have Green Power come down for the next board meeting, if it's okay with the board, to talk with you and kind of discuss the process and what had occurred and what our cost would be with the charging station if we purchase a bus. The unfortunate thing is, the good thing about this grant was the fact that it was going to kind of tie in the 79 corridor.
Yeah,
As
and I
far
think
as
that's why-
infrastructure, that was really the reason why.
I think that's why, as time goes on, we may end up getting, the state may kick money in or something, because we're in Mon and Harrison County, they need us as the links for charging stations.
Exactly. So there is a possibility that the state is, they purchased 37 fees that they're going to give out to the county. I did apply for that so that we could possibly, they could make us whole if we perhaps bought into a bus, which might be 120,000. And then they may possibly give us 3 of the state buses. So that would kind of make us whole for a total of 4 buses. We start the infrastructure. I have just as many concerns about EV vehicles as everyone else. I do think with some of the neighborhoods we walk kids, that would be very beneficial. You know, some of your shorter runs, you have a level 3 charging station that you can fast charge these from almost zero, completely dead, to 100% in 2 to 3 hours. So that's a must, is to have the level 3 charger. So again, Steve Ellis from Green Power and possibly Mark Nessel will come to our next meeting and enlighten you all and see what direction that we maybe as a team want to go. I see some positives in it. I still do. It's going to happen in the future. And the way I look at it is we can kind of be pioneers or we can be left out. And I think we really need to kind of look at doing a few to be able to move the right direction, because it's just a matter of time. And I will say this again, and I've said it before, it adds about $40,000 to our reimbursement per bus per year. So over a 10-year period, we would be reimbursed $400,000 for that bus. Just one. So that's kind of a positive as well. Probably won't be here in 10 years if somebody is benefiting. Anyway, that's all I really have, unless you all have any questions.
Where are we on secure entrances? Just piggybacking on Jason.
Well, so we know that Mountaineer Middle is going to be one of the easier ones to do. And also Bridgeport Middle, we've discussed it. Liberty High School, they certainly need it. It's going to take a little bit of, I think a little bit of moving of their office space or where the main entrance is, which is similar. It's not as bad, but it's similar to Bridgeport High School. Very complicated. And RCB's fairly complicated too. So we really need to take a look at a good design and get some cost estimates and being able to do that. That's pretty much where we are.
All we have left are Mountaineer Middle, Liberty, Bridgeport, and Bridgeport Middle.
Bridgeport High School, Bridgeport Middle. Yeah.
You're getting there.
Hopefully there'll be funding.
Well, that's what, you know, we've done a lot of these, you know, you heard the gentleman today talk about some funding. We've done, the board has made this, you made a big impact on this, and now there's some funding. So, but it's good that we're ahead of the curve.
It's been a long time since the state has put in money for safety. We had a round of funding for safe schools years ago. So I'm glad that they're looking at it again. So that would be our first priority.
For what we already did.
But don't believe it until they put the check in there.
Real quick, is there a possibility, brief update on the attendance situation policy?
For the exam?
For just the attendance policy in general, what we're looking at to last time we talked about.
Well, for the exam policy, for the attendance incentive in the exam policy, we've had 2 meetings on that so far. So we'll give an update soon, yeah. Next time.
With the benchmarks.
Yeah. So.
Anything else?
Well, other than we had our audit, Dietrich and Bartlett completed the audit. Finance has been quite busy getting all that ready. We'll see. I mean, we'll get our report, who knows, probably beginning of the year. It takes Dietrich and Bartlett a little while to get us the report. It's been the time for monitoring. We did have our ESSER funding monitoring and our title monitoring, which is something that occurs. And we completed that. And then the week after that, we had pre-K monitoring, which happens every 3 years. And we just completed that. And then Mr. Gibson had a conversation with him today. Our nutrition program is getting monitored next week. So it is just, there are things that just happen, but they're happening with all. There's a lot of State Department folks have been here to visit, so, which is not a bad thing. And so I told Mr. Gibson he is learning by fire. He came in, he's been in the job since November, and now he's getting monitored on the school lunch program, which also involves federal money and federal, all that money's related. And then the last thing on my superintendent's update is the calendar. We have given you calendar A, and I went ahead and made a copy of it. We threw out B and C, so we had A and D. We tried to just update D with some of the suggestions with an end date after the, in January, with the first semester ending in January. A, the one that you have there, the only change was we had a request that President's Day be an OS day, so everybody's off. Nobody's in school, the students aren't there, staff are off. So we were able to do that and then change the PL day to that following Friday. That's the only change to A, since the committees had it and you looked at it the first time. Calendar D that you have is really the update doing trying to do equal 6 weeks, yeah, and then equal 90 semesters. I went ahead and said it was D, because we just tried to put it all in this one. And then the semester ends after Christmas. The only thing is that we tried to do the 2 PD days, because we do know that that's a request that the teachers want, coming back after the semester. Well, there's really not a use to do that. And if you just move the 1 to the 2nd, the 1 PD day, and then do the other one after the semester, it leaves us dangling Friday out there. Like the semester ends, and we're afraid nobody will come. So we tried to move the 2 days later in the month. But I think.
After the semester ends.
Yeah, after the semester ends,
Yeah.
there'll be a PD day and then a day for teachers. It's just later in the semester. So it's just whatever your desire is, because the start of the semesters are very similar for the kids. It's just a matter, it really comes down, I think, that ending before the holiday or after. I did do just a quick survey. We had the high school principals in. We were talking about lots of things, and the exams were one. And then I just at the end of that, I said, how would you like your semester if you were looking at the calendar? We had 7 people in there. They prefer before.
I know.
So that's really the only thing that I've done. So, but we do, because the code says we have to have hearings on the calendar, we're going to have to decide which one we want to put
Well,
out
that's,
for public comment, which whenever you know.
well, what I would suggest is let's set a public hearing for first meeting in March. And then that gives us because we just got these tonight, so if we take these back, look at them, and then in some way discuss them at the next meeting, during your superintendent's update, we'll kind of get a feel on what you want to put out for the public hearing.
Okay.
Because
We'll put it out for
we're not able to vote on it, but you would have a sense of, by then, of which one, A or
We could
D,
put it
that
out
you want
for
to put out for the
public
public hearing.
comment.
We don't want to put more than one out, but if we just, shoot for
That
March the
first
5th for
one.
public hearing
Yeah.
On the calendar, and I
And
guess.
then
with
a
that-
second calendar hearing could be the 2nd March meeting. And in at that same time, it would be out for public comment on the website.
But we've got
And then you would-
we wouldn't have to do an addition.
You have to have 2 calendar
Okay,
hearings.
so we need,
So you could put it on here and then on the 6 o'clock meeting, vote. You could actually adopt it on that March 19th
Okay.
meeting if you chose to do that.
we need 2, so we could do March 5th, which we do have on there.
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
2 calendar
Okay,
hearings.
so we'll do that way, and then at our next meeting, during the superintendent's update, we can talk about it again, and then kind of get a sense of
Tell me
what
what your
direction we're
desire
headed.
is.
All right,
Because we really do need to get next
But
year's
yeah,
calendar.
it
I
is-
mean,
it would be done in March.
Yeah, we're trying to set up those beginning of the year professional development days. We've got a CE council that's working with Julie. We're really trying to let them tell us what they want. Like, what would you like? And they're asking for like a large speaker on one of those days to come in and do that's what they're asking for. I mean, it seems to be so we're trying to do that. And we have to have the date so we can contract, because a lot of those are non-refundable. If we contract them.
Well, we would have it handled by
Yeah, we'll
the
be.
second meeting
okay.
in March, we'd be done with it, so.
That's all I have. for superintendent.
Okay. And moves us down to item 6, consent items. We'll take item A and B together, meeting minutes and financial transactions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Establishment of additional meeting dates, and those were handed out to you.
Yeah, you got it
Earlier.
online 2 different ways, and then we did a straight shot on that.
Is there a motion to accept the
Motion to
establishment?
approve. Motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
One thing I can say is you just have to hit chemo days, so I may have to call in and,
Okay. Just send me a message.
yeah.
Whatever on the day of.
You know, I have, instead of 1, which would normally be done, I'm lucky I get 2 now.
On the days that we've got a motion second. If we accept them, we'll accept them as is. And if there needs to be a change, we can always,
Just change.
we can change the meeting if we have to, or you can call it.
This is the time of year we have personnel hearings, we have
Yeah.
budget meetings, so we were trying to just let you get a good view of what the next few months will look like.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business, out-of-state travel study request. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the travel study.
Yes, second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, memorandum of understanding between Wheeling University for placement of student teachers. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Bus driver promissory notes. They're in front of you. And these are, do you have any more in the works, or these are the latest 2 bus drivers?
Yeah, these are the latest 2 we have.
Right now, training?
Process of, we've interviewed, we have, I think, 7 we get ready to train.
Great.
We just lost one.
All right.
Yes, we did. Good.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Open enrollment transfers, approvals, and denials. And as we said, those will be on pretty much every meeting from now on.
There's one in there, if you look, it's from virtual back into virtual.
Notice it said Mannington.
4 of them.
Well, yeah, all you added.
Advice of doctor, that's the.
Virtual was no good when we did it during COVID, but now they've got whole schools for them, and somehow starting to transfer back. So,
So,
is there a motion?
Motion to approve the transfer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All
There's
those,
just one on the advice of the doctor deal here. Do we have a lot of those? Yeah, I know you can write anything.
just say we got a whole list.
I like that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of McKinley and Associates to provide architectural and civil engineering services for SBA needs project. And that is the giant check over there, correct?
The governor delivered last week.
Baby dog swallowed.
Oh, my God.
That was probably the government.
That's another 100,000.
Is there a motion for item E?
I'll make a motion, we accept McKinney and Associates. Well,
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Were these the only 2 that?
Yeah, and they both, I mean, Thrasher did they did a great job. They really did. So
Who does the score sheet? Just asking.
We did it as a team. We all,
Oh.
whoever interviewed, score, and then we take the average. They-
Could
they
you,
both were
at some
great.
point, maybe provide us the evaluator question, the evaluator, like,
Questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item F, contract with United Summit Center for At-Risk Assessment Services.
Make a motion, we accept contract for United Summit Center.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No old business, no policy updates, personnel and personnel matters. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we accept the personnel matters as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No legal and disciplinary matters. Board member comments, Mr. Tucker?
I just want to thank everybody that stayed, so I will. Thank you all for being here. Also for everybody that came and spoke. Take their time because they were here all day at work and to come and make a great presentation to us. Let us know what all's going on in the county, particularly safety-wise. Appreciate that very much. And for you folks that are home watching, again, thank you. I still have to feed the horses over. Go ahead.
Mr. Smith?
I'm good, thanks.
I just, I felt that we had a need to go into executive session,
Under,
personnel.
no one made the motion.
Okay.
Chair doesn't make the motion, so. Mr. Devon?
I don't have anything.
I don't either. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
So then, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?